Hello, and welcome to Why I Love Warhammer, the series where I'm just going to go on a bit of an unscripted ramble about something in the Warhammer world that I really love. And today's episode is Tau. I love Tau for a few reasons. Mostly it's the lore. Um, I know it's a bit outdated to think of Tau as the good guys in this hobby, but and there is lore to suggest that's not quite the case. But I do like the idea of this faction who are small, barely have a presence in the warp due to their psychic potential and the size of their souls, who are the good guys, who are hopeful, who are optimistic, who do work with people, but because of the rest of the galaxy, it's a little bit doomed. That feels very grimdark to me in a way that another morally grey faction just wouldn't really for me. But there is this thing that is in the lore of 40k of everything is canon, but not everything is true. So I tend to view a lot of the anti-Tau bits in the lore as imperial propaganda to stop humans moving to work for the Tau Empire. um, but I'll get onto other bits in the lore that I quite like, but start with Commander Farsight as a model I'm particularly fond of. I enjoy I enjoy the idea of this rebel faction who moved away from the Tau ethereal castes who were running Tau society and did their own thing. I'm a sucker for the color scheme, and I enjoy the contrast of the Farsight enclaves using a sword, having that melee focus, rather than the arguably more logical way the rest of the Tau Empire are, where they focus on gun lines. For this model as well, I like the fact that it's got. I like it, and I chuckle at the plants because one of the very early paint jobs that went up was that being cherry blossoms, and considering there's a bit of a dichotomy between are the Tau weebs, and in fact there was a I can't remember the exact use. It was either Pancreas No Work or Gaijin Goomba or something like that, where they went into Tau inspirations not being Japanese but being something else. But when you've got a katana, cherry blossom leaves, and then the fact that part of why Tau were introduced and why they are these kind of Gundam mecha things was to try and corner that Japanese market. Suppose I'm a bit ambivalent towards the Gundam mecha aspect towards Tau, but that's because I'm a kaiju fan and we often get lumped in the same category. And I was never that much for the Gundam mecha stuff, but I've kind of moved a bit further away from it since all the algorithms and stuff tried to pigeonhole me because I like Godzilla. But I can't not love Commander Farsight. This is just a really cool model, and it was just one that I thought would be worth starting off this video with. The next model I'm going to go with is Darkstrider here. Mostly I like this guy for the tiny baby drones. I love drones in the Tau Empire, and this guy here I just particularly enjoy in that regard. So yeah, he's mostly here for the drones. Next one I'm going to be talking about is Commander Shadowsun. For this model, I like the guns. I love how they've been positioned. I enjoy the drones, and you get a thing with a few models where they're trying to give the illusion of flight by having them attached a little bit to some kind of rock. And it doesn't always work. I prefer just your regular flight stands. But with Shadowsun, I don't get the feeling that they're trying to present the illusion of flight. I get the feeling that they're trying to give the impression of they're just about to jump off. And so that makes it cooler to me. I'm also a sucker for the not canon thing from If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech device with Captain General Kitten and Shadowsun yeah, I enjoy that bit of lore that she's got in the fanon, as it were. But I just enjoy the way she's posed. And like I say, drones. Um, just your regular battle suits. I think they're cool because of the guns, and they've got the gun drones as well. I think what I like about this is kind of, to me, the exemplar of the tower strategy, because like there are lore reasons behind why melee is still a thing in the 41st millennium, but why is it still a thing in the 41st millennium? Like, why was that lore necessary? Because, I mean, from a lore standpoint, why were those things necessary? Because if you're trying to do large scale war, you want the enemy over there so that they are less of a threat. You want to plink them off from afar. And that's what the tower are very logical in that regard. They do that one thing very well. And that's not to say that they're simple to play, because there is an enormous amount of strategy. If you can only do one thing incredibly well, you need to make sure that you are doing that optimally. The strategy I once heard was that you need to very carefully do the maths for this, just to ensure that there is zero chance of dealing more damage than is necessary to remove the enemy unit. Because if you go over, you've done your maths wrong, and you're no longer using that phase optimally. If you can only use one phase, you need to make sure you do it as well as you possibly can. And also drones. Like, why wouldn't you use robots to just go over there somewhere to, you know, do some of the plinking off of the enemy units, and why wouldn't you use them as a shield? I just like this guy's pose. I think it's cool with the knife, with that knife held up there, and the gun, and he's got a kind of determined face. I don't have the deepest things to say about this guy. I just like his pose. This, I like this one because I enjoy how Tau has a bit more of a terrain focus. You really get the sense that they're using that technology to have like optimal strategies, and having a bunch of drones that can go into a feature and just have that on the table. I think that's really interesting, and I enjoy that because it's clearly so new. It suggests that it's being built when they're deploying somewhere, and that speaks to this kind of relentlessly expansionist nature of the Tau Empire and how fast they can develop. The Riptide. A, drones. B, just the guns. The guns are huge, and it looks like a very large model. There was a thing back when I first started getting into the gameplay of 40k more, kind of in 8th edition. I was playing a lot more regularly with a far better adherence to the rules. The 3 Riptides, Triptide was the meta strategy, and I think the strategy was basically you have your Triptide, your 3 Riptide battlesuits, as many drones as you could possibly acquire, and then enough stuff to make the Force game legal. And to me, as much as people didn't like that strategy from a gameplay standpoint, I thought it would be a cool army to build, even if it never hit the table. Partially, I love drones and the idea of these guys synergizing with as many drones as possible. And also the name, the silly pun, but I like the word Triptide. It sounds cool. Okay, Kroot. Kroot were the part of this video that I needed to save for partway through, because if I started on Kroot, I'd never touch any of the other stuff in the Tau army. I love the concept of Tau auxiliaries, because it's that thing of they'll work together with other races. I love Kroot specifically. They give me vibes of different things that I don't think anyone else views them the way I view them. So I get a little bit of Native American vibes from a few of them, especially the Kroot Shaper. something like the proto quills that they have gives me that impression. But for the Kroot Shaper, I also love how in the lore, because the Kroot do a thing of they can take on characteristics of the things they consume. And at least at one point in the lore, the Kroot Shaper could consciously determine which bits were being carried over. It's a bit like the old Tyrannid Biovore sculpt was meant to have a slightly orky face, as though it consumed orc biomass and taken on those characteristics. And then as the Tyranid lore kind of evolved, that stopped being a thing. And so when they redid that sculpt for the 10th edition launch, it doesn't have that orky face anymore. But I like how that is carried on with the Kroot, and yeah, these kind of bird dinosaur power, bird dinosaur things with the proto quills. I just think they're really cool, and the Kroot Shaper especially. Krootox, the Krootox riders, I love them. I love them too. I'm a sucker for a steed, and the Krootox steed is one I just think is really fascinating, and I love the Kroot carnivore on its back. I love the guns. I just think it's a cool sculpt. It's an old one, but I don't personally think it needs updating. Kroot Hounds do need updating. I did a YouTube short about loving these guys because I do love them. I think they're low-key cute. I like the dog thing they've got going on. I like the proto quills. They remind me of a small monster from one of my favorite giant monster movies. I'd love to run 3 squads of 12 in a full Kroot list, but I acknowledge it's an old sculpt and it is in need of updating, but I love them. I think they're just really cool models, and I love the variety they suggest for Kroot as a whole. Kroot carnivores, the classic, the standard, the Kroot. For some reason, these guys give me a little bit grasshopper vibes. When I would play Dawn of War Dark Crusade, I didn't really use Kroot as one of my main units. I'd stick it on easy mode, get a greater Gnarloc, go crazy. So I've never really had anything in my mind for how they move. So in my imagination, when they're running around, they're kind of hopping a little bit because I do get this weird grasshopper vibe from them, and maybe that's completely wrong, but that's how I've always imagined it. And they're just really interesting looking models to me. I like the aesthetic of them. I love the beaks. I love the color scheme. I love the weapons. They're just really cool. I really like Kroot, and I like that when they made the Kroot Shaper into it was because in 9th edition, if you could make the Kroot Shaper a warlord, and then and even though it was only an elite choice, and then in 10th edition where they've done away with most of the Force Orc chart, you can just have one as a warlord. It means you can have a 1,000 point Kroot army with as many Kroot carnivores as you can muster. You can't quite get 2,000. Believe me, I've tried to get 2,000 points of Kroot. You can't quite get there. I think you might be able to get to 1,500, but it's tough. But yeah, the Kroot carnivores are just a really fun set of sculpts and just enjoyable. And then they have this kill team come up. I love the updated sculpt for these things. I love the updated shaper. I love the updated Kroot Hounds. They're somehow both cuter and scarier to me in this new form. I enjoy the fact that there's an eagle there. I love the bow, that bow and arrow, and the extra types of guns. I love this kind of combination of kind of scavenged guns, and then the leader's got a classic Tau gun. And I enjoy the guy who's he's on the right hand side of this image. He's kind of got this knife and a pick. It's just a really cool set of models, and I'd love to get this as an independent kill team. Because it's a fun game in itself, kill team, and it's nice to be able to use these guys in 40k army as well now. Greater Gnarloc. I'm trying to get these images from either the Games Workshop, any images I try and use, kind of either Games Workshop official or models I specifically own, which meant I did have to get a video game model for the Greater Gnarloc here because I couldn't find an official picture for the model, and I didn't want to use some person's own paint job. I don't want to put some random on the internet to the level of, yeah, I just don't want to put someone else's content online without their explicit permission. But I just think I love this model. I love this dinosaur parrot aesthetic it's got going on, and I really wish this would come back as a model to be supported in the 40k range, because it'd be so good to run this. It'd be a beautiful centerpiece, just plonk in the middle, and just have it run down the field. I'd love to have this. Vespids, I love the extra auxiliaries. I want more Vespids in the Tau range. Again, these things are ancient sculpts at this point, but I love the kind of bug bat nature of them. I enjoy the fact that they've got, loads of eyes and these terrifying mouths, but they do work with the Tau in a friendly way. And yeah, I just wish these guys could get more. I wish we could get more Vespids in the Tau range, because I love them. Also, just more Tau auxiliaries generally, because we've got 2 in models, but there are more than that confirmed in the lore. And even if it were in some other context, like maybe they get some vehicle and another auxiliary race is like working on it and fixing stuff up, that'd be great, because we should get more auxiliaries. It'd be brilliant to have more auxiliaries for Tau. Okay. The vehicles. I love the Devil. I love the kind of curviness of it, and I love the just general shape of it. I also like the fish names that the vehicles are given, and yeah, that's so yeah. I love this vehicle as a thing for Tau, and in the vehicles as well. I love Longstrike. I just think it's a really cool sculpt to plonk it in the cockpit of a vehicle. I'd love to get a copy of this guy to put into a Lehman Russ tank as a just because that can be an interesting conversion to do. I love the face. I love that kind of he's pointing out like his general pattern. Just really enjoyable. Anyway, those are a few of the Tau sculpts I like, and a bit more about why I love Tau. I hope that maybe you love Tau, and this is a bit more evidence that Tau are really, really lovable. Maybe you don't like Tau, and maybe you've softened a little bit. Maybe you haven't. If you want to stick in the comments what you think of Tau as a race, as a faction, for good and bad, I'm very happy to. Yeah, please put it down. I'd love to read them. So far, all the comments I've had on this channel have been really positive. I really appreciate that. I am saving up for a better microphone. So hopefully sound quality will improve in these videos in time. It's just getting it. But yeah, if you want to do the YouTube niceties of liking, subscribing, notification bell, and if you want to share these videos with someone who might also enjoy, who might also enjoy just some positivity about the hobby, because this is a really lovable hobby. People get excited about it. People really like talking about this. So yeah, please rave about stuff you love in the comment section. It'd be really, really good to read. And with that, yeah, I'll see you next time.